It's a real joy to be here, and I just want to explain a little bit why I said joy. You know, one of the things that someone involved in biomedical research can do is making a discovery, and it really is an incredible experience when you understand something or you make a discovery that no one else has been able to uncover before, and it really is, it's an incredible experience, and so I just wanted to make sure that was part of our vocabulary there. So let me tell you one of our primary purposes is to make sure that we accelerate cancer research in every direction possible, and one of our great legacies that have been in place for many decades, long before we had an NCI Designated Cancer Center, was our focus on cancer prevention and discovery and the care of patients to really save and improve lives. And over the last few decades, I think our purpose has broadened. I think initially things with after a cancer diagnosis were such that our focus was totally on trying to save an individual's lives, and now I think we've made enough progress to where we can also expand that to maintaining quality of life and preserving that as people go through their cancer journey, and then just making sure that you still have the life that you had before you were diagnosed. This is our catchment area, and as you can see, it's not only the entire state of Kansas, but also the western portion of Missouri. And what all of these colors mean on this map is basically an indication of how dense the population is around metropolitan areas, and it varies from heavily dense urban core areas all the way out to frontier counties, which have less than 6 people per square mile. And when you think about that what that means is that we have very different problems throughout our catchment area, and we can't have a one-size-fits-all solution. We have to think about the folks that we're serving and make sure that we design programs that are relevant to their needs. And so, some of those things are like HPV vaccination for our younger adults and adolescents, working for public policy initiatives like the Tanning Facilities Act that we passed a couple of years ago. And you're going to be hearing a lot about our initiative for Tobacco 21. We expect will decrease our smoking rate by about 10% or so. And that's, we'd much rather prevent cancer than treat cancer. And this will be a critical initiative for that. So let me tell you a little bit about NCI Designated Cancer Centers. And right now there are 70 centers in the United States. That is the National Cancer Institute. They're known for a number of things, and basically pretty much every scientific advance, every clinical advance, every drug that's ever been approved for cancer has been an idea that originated in an NCI Designated Center, that was developed in an NCI Designated Center, and or was ultimately proved to be effective in an NCI Designated Center. So they're kind of the creme de la creme of our cancer research and treatment efforts. They're known for developing new treatments, and that's one of their main goals, is to make sure that we're not just sitting on our laurels, we're not satisfied with where we are with our current cancer treatments, that we're constantly moving things forward, or matriculating down the field, as Hank Stram used to say. And as a key part of that, they're known for offering innovative, cutting-edge clinical trials. Because in 1971, when the National Cancer Act was passed, 5-year survival rates for all cancers lumped together was 49%. And now it's about 68%. And the reason why we've moved that far in advance is that we've had patients volunteer for clinical trials and subject themselves to all of the things that you have to go through, not only for your treatment, but also to evaluate an experimental agent. And it's literally saved millions of lives. Over the last, since 1991, there's 2.5 million people alive in this country today just because of the advances that we've made in cancer research and treatment. They're also responsible for training pretty much all of the physicians, the PhD researchers, the nurses, everything else that's involved in taking care of cancer patients. And that's a key part of their mission. And all of this results basically in about a 25% improved survival for patients treated at an NCI Designated Center versus elsewhere. Let me tell you a little bit about the rationale for this group, and that is we want to make sure that our patients have direct input to the research direction of the Cancer Center. It's critically important for us. I think the days of the ivory tower are over with, and that if you're going to be funding this initiative, and you do that in multiple ways, through your federal taxes, through your, if you live on the Kansas side, your state taxes, we get $5 million a year from the state. If you live in Johnson County, we get about $6 million every year from Johnson County. So you are a participant whether you like it or not, basically. And we need to be responsive to your needs. And we're also, the NCI could not care less about, the state line or any of that kind of stuff. Our job is to take care of patients all across this region, or really anywhere from across the country, when patients come to see us. And I think last year we took care of patients from 48 states in our Cancer Center program. And a big part of that, of course, is innovative clinical trials. We're one of the leaders in CAR T therapy trials, and that's one of the most exciting areas right now in cancer research. And so CAR T is basically where we take out your white blood cells and teach them how to fight cancer. Grow them up and then put them back into the patient. And because they're the patient's own cells, there's no issues with rejection or any of that kind of thing. And all of a sudden your immune system is woke up and is fighting your cancer in a very specific way. And it's an incredible advance that's occurred just over the last few years. So one of the things that is kind of an unfortunate reality that we're facing is that despite all of this research, despite all of this progress, cancer is fighting back really hard. And it's not retreating. And in fact, between now and 2030, the expectation is that cancer diagnoses will actually increase by about 45%. And the reason for that is standing before you. I'm a baby boomer. Many of you look like you're baby boomers, although I could have confused you with a graduating high school class, but okay, enough of the jokes. Baby boomers are getting older, and there's 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every single day. And as it turns out, cancer is largely a disease of older individuals. It's much more frequent in older individuals. And so our demographics are such that somewhere between 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 Americans by the year 2030 will be 65 years of age or older. And because of this demographic shift, we're going to see a lot more cancer cases. Right now, 1 out of every 2 men, 1 out of every 3 women are diagnosed with this disease. And unfortunately, as I've already mentioned, 5-year survival, while it's improved, is still less than 70%. So that's a D plus in most schools I went to. So we're not doing that great. We're getting better, but we still got a lot of progress to make. So when we got started over a decade ago, we recognized that there was really tremendous potential to develop an NCI Designated Cancer Center here in this region, because we had a variety of different institutions that could be brought together to work on this problem. And on the slide before you, you see kind of the 4 main campuses of the KU Cancer Center. And that's right here at KU Medical Center, out in KU Lawrence, Stowers Institute, which is over on the Missouri side, and then Children's Mercy, which is over on the Missouri side. And we are all consortium members of the KU Cancer Center. We all work together. We we plan, we operate as a single entity that's fighting this disease. Now, of course, our big efforts are around drug discovery. And I want to give you an example of how cancer centers were designed to work. And they were essentially begun with the idea that very few individual investigators or clinicians are able to make progress against this disease when they're just working by themselves. And that what you really need to have happen is an entire spectrum of folks from all different types of scientific and clinical disciplines working together, because cancer is such a big, complex, multifaceted problem. And so, you know, when you get right down to it, a cancer center is designed to foster collaboration and to bring people together and focus them on the cancer problem. Had completely different backgrounds, completely different training, completely different paths to getting to the KU Cancer Center, but they all work together to develop the first new bladder cancer specific drug that has been approved by the FDA to go into clinical trials in over 40 years. And you take any one of these folks out of this equation and it wouldn't happen. And it takes all these folks working together to make it happen. So right now at KU Cancer Center, we have over 350 cancer researchers and clinicians working on this issue. We have more cancer docs at this institution than all the other cancer docs combined across our entire catchment area. And because of that, we have more patients, obviously. So we get to specialize and focus. We have docs who just take care of breast cancer. We have docs who just take care of leukemia. And that's absolutely critical when you look at the pace of progress that we're seeing these days. We have over 400 clinical trials that are in various stages of progress. Right now we're enrolling patients on over 130 clinical trials. And since 2010, we've put 20,000 people into cancer center clinical trials, which we're awfully proud of that. And that's because that's how we make progress, frankly. And Ashley Flynn, who was one of the founders of Pivot, is a great example of that. She was diagnosed at a very young age of colon cancer. And, and this is Ashley pictured with her the birth of her recent child. We see Pivot as a critically important initiative for us, and thanks again for joining.